Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
I feel like we just did this. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 38 of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is August 10th, 2019, and in this episode, we are still on Roshar. We are continuing our discussion into part 3 of Oathbringer. Welcome, guys. I am Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my beseeched co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
For those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we do want to remind you it's possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode live at www.twitch.tv/InKeepersTable. We record our episodes every other Monday night normally. Tonight is actually a Saturday because we're recording out of order, just because we like to mix things up and other reasons too. But we are still starting at our normal time tonight, which is 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Please join us every other Monday and take an active part in the discussion.
Or else.
Wait, are we
Yes.
threatening? Are we threatening
Oh,
people?
we
I didn't think we were threatening
I
people.
might have misread the situation.
And suddenly our Patreon numbers plummet.
Or
Thanks, Jordan.
skyrocket.
Thanks, Jordan.
What if this was the push everyone needed right here, right now. I'm here to assert some authority now.
Speaking of Patreon, the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, please head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. You can pledge $1 or $2 per episode or more if you want, but even just $1 or $2 per episode is really helpful. It helps us keep making the show. Not to mention, there's some benefits for you. Our patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with a bunch of other awesome people who they study the Cosmere, they talk about it, they put out crazy theories that we get to talk about and debunk or get our minds blown by. And it's just a lot of fun. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes. You'll get exclusive access to some of our other bonus content and even automatic entry into some of our giveaways. So thank y'all. You're amazing.
Yes.
And we love you.
Thank you.
Heart. Oh, boy. So, guys,
This
part
one's
3
depressing.
is... Part 3 is intense. There are some good moments in here.
There
though.
are some
It-
really good moments, but it's heavy.
Well, it ends on a rough note because it's the middle act. You know, it's like, this is your Empire Strikes Back, where at the end of the thing, the guy's got his hand cut off, found out that the big bad is his dad, and nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah, the only difference is Empire Strikes Back was a full film. This is the third part of 5 parts in a 10-part book series.
But each book also follows its own arc,
Oh,
and this is the middle part.
I don't know, by the end of this section, I was sort of like, wow, I'm not gonna be able to handle ending on. Like, I literally thought sort of like it felt like the Brandon avalanche that we typically get at the end of a book. And
Oh, yeah.
I was so wrung out by the end of this section that mentally I was like, the book is over, and then I'm like, oh no, there's still like
No.
30 hours
more.
left on my audiobook.
It's like, you're just barely over halfway. So
It was
So much more.
it was one of these things where my mind couldn't comprehend that we weren't done.
I know. It was. I was listening to it, and I was just like, "And we're gonna just keep listening because I can't just stop here. I gotta keep going." So I remember when I was reading it the first time, it was so hard.
But,
And
but
even-
seriously, it's
Even reading
it's
it this
horrible.
time. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
moments where knowing what's coming is super hard too, because you're
yeah.
especially with Elikor. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Elokar.
Oh, we're so
Right
sad.
as he was just starting to figure it out.
And he was finally coming into his own, and then no.
Now, as a heads up, of course, we are talking about part 3. The whole book is up for spoilers. Honestly, the whole Cosmere is going to be up for spoilers because we're talking about Hoid some in here, so just expect spoilers. Lots and lots of spoilers. So yeah, should we go ahead and dive in?
Okay.
I mean, so at the very beginning, the first thing that we've got is everybody's sort of getting ready to go off and do their big adventure.
Go save Kholinar.
Yep, so Caledon and Shallan are getting ready to head off, and Caledon and Elokar are getting ready to head off, and Elokar has recruited Shallan, by which we mean Shallan has convinced Elokar that he needs to recruit her.
It's like, oh look, I'm so useful. Let me run away from Yasna.
And so she's bringing people with her. Caledon's got a couple of his squires with him, and they're all getting ready. So they test out the ability to fly around with people who can't fly. And and Caledon says, "Yeah, this works great. We can go. We'll go with the next high storm." And Dalinar steps into the Lion's Den because he goes to visit Thaylen City all by himself.
Yep.
Unarmed. Well, not all by himself, because Navani comes with him, but it's just basically he's going to show, I am not coming as a conquering force. I'm coming as an envoy of peace. And
he's really good at that, by the way.
He's trying so hard.
And the thing is, they go around, and it's just he's absolutely blown away by how devastated Thaylen City is. It's interesting. They don't really talk about at the beginning the Parshmen and how they sort of have rebelled, but they did. But Dalinar looked around and he saw that there was more devastation than there normally would be, and he said, and so he kind of gives Queen Finn a sidelong look. He's like, "So it happened down by the docks, didn't it?" Because that's where they kept their Parshmen, and there was just this big. You could tell there was a lot more destruction down there, and they took the boats, didn't they?
Yeah, because they were like they acted like the Thaylen, and they went to the sea and got out of there.
It's really interesting how we see the different races
have influenced the Parshmen, or the
have
Parshmen
influenced
are
the
the same.
Parshmen,
Yeah,
and so or the cultures. They're
cultures,
culturally the same, and it's really because that's just sort of the area that they grew up in. Don't you think, Jordan?
Definitely.
Obviously.
Sorry, I was having some headphone issues and I just barely got it plugged back in.
I saw an opportunity to throw Jordan under the bus, and I took it. So
I respect that. No, it's interesting because the Parshmen, they call it dull form, but they have no other culture other than the ones that they've just lived in, and so they live that life. Because that's
exactly.
that's what they know. To them, that's what people are, and something we get into later in the book. But how the fused are all frustrated. They're like they don't have the right passion, and all the Parshmen are just like I sort of just want to can we just live?
Can I just farm over here, or can I just trade over here, or whatever their culture that they came from was strong and prominent.
Particularly when Caledon was visiting with them, he just noticed they were basically people from Hearthstone.
Yeah, and he's like, if I wasn't looking at them and just listening, they would sound exactly like the people I grew up with.
Well, and the only reason the Alethi Parshmen are useful at all is because the Alethi are a warlike people.
So they were more inclined to do that.
Yeah.
But we were talking specifically, though, about the ones in Thaylen City, because what did they do? They went right for the boats.
And now
and
they own a boat.
They have lots of boats. Other boats.
Jordan. But But yeah, so, Dalinar and Fen are looking around and he's seeing how absolutely devastated the city is. Taravangian's with them as well.
Yeah.
And they go to the different temples. That was one thing I hadn't noticed is there are temples to each of the heralds.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I've just never really thought about the heralds as being considered deities worthy of their own temple. But I don't know enough about Catholicism, especially like old school Catholicism. I do know that there are cathedrals to specific saints and stuff like that. And so I guess that might be what this is. But it almost feels like this is a temple not to them, or not from them, but to them. And so there's almost worship of each. I guess they don't have the patrons.
It kind of makes me think of like the Greek and Roman temples, how they had that for their different, like Zeus and Athena and Hera and all that. Because that's the feel that I got from it, especially with how much stone they used. But yeah, that was the feel I got. And I did like that Navani had to point out that she's like, no, she's doing the traditional thing and she's clinging to something traditional to give her some sense of stability with all of the chaos that's going on. That's why Queen Fen was making him go to all the different temples, is that's what you're supposed to do with visitors.
The other thing that's interesting, because correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of Thalens worship the passions, don't they?
I think some.
Yeah,
I don't remember if it was them that was more passion heavy, or if it was a different.
I thought it was the Thalens.
Isn't Adolin's Taylor Thalen?
Yes.
Yeah, and she definitely worships the passions.
Yeah,
I think they're one of those like hodgepodge religions that do both.
They do all of them just to make sure they got all the bases covered, so that when the end of times comes, they've.
Hey, I either way I'm good.
Well, I think it's more to me the way I read the situation, and it's more the fact that they're a merchant country that sort of lives between everyone else's cultures. That it's more that they have truly melted together a lot of these different cultures, and they're sort of the amalgamation of everyone else because they deal with everyone else.
That's true. With a merchant race like that, it makes sense that it would work that way.
Yeah.
That, and they have big eyebrows, so who knows what they're doing.
All the eyebrows.
The eyebrows they're interesting. I haven't really quite figured them out, but hey, why not?
It's one of these things that if I ever tried to explain this book to other people, like in a visual medium, like try to get them on board, I know several people who would see them with eyebrows and just be like, and for that reason, I'm out.
Makes me really want to see somebody do a cosplay of a Thalen. Just to see the eyebrows.
There's a picture in actually at the very beginning of part 3 in the book.
Oh, that does show Thalen. That's right. But I don't know. I just want to see it in real life. It'd be fun. I'm kind of worried about trying to do it myself though.
For some reason, in my head, I always imagine them like a bushy handlebar mustache, but on your eyes.
On your eyebrows.
And so I imagine them a lot, probably furrier than they really are.
I see. I just imagine a big old Mario mustache on their eyebrows.
It's a me, Thalena. But yeah, so they're going around, and Taravangian is having, it would seem, one of his more compassionate days. And so, of course, he sees the sick, and he immediately just begs them, "Let me bring my surgeons," because that's one of the things that
they get to like the later temples, and they don't go in because it's full of the sick and dying.
Right. But he's just like almost breaks down in tears and says, "Let me bring my surgeons; they can help." And of course, and Dalinar's first just thought is, "Oh, Taravangian, you are a treasure." And I'm just like, right now he is.
I am so glad to have good old Taravangian who will never let you down. Good old reliable Taravangian.
Now, I still think that Taravangian is going to be a very, very positive thing in the end, because he's been put into place by cultivation, and she is playing a 3D chess game right now.
He's just creepy with how much he goes back and forth and all the previous stuff he did.
I love Taravangian. He is one of the best characters in this series, I think.
He is plus the most interesting man on Roshar.
Plus, again, I imagine clever Taravangian as King Boomy. So, but
less kind though.
But it's just interesting. And then, of course, Queen Finn, her son, is just like... It's very obvious. It's very obvious. He is not impressed by Dalinar, and he wants Dalinar to know that he is not impressed by Dalinar. And Dalinar just sort of looks, he's like, here's an opportunity.
Here, take it out on me. Let's do this.
And I just love, he leans over to Navani. He's just like, I'm going to do something right now. Just, go with me on this. And he starts goading, what's his name? Ryle?
Yeah.
He's trying to rile him up. And goading him into a fight, to the point where he can finally just challenge me. He's like, all right, fine. You want to fight? Let's do this.
And then he lets it so that Ryle has the blade and he doesn't have anything in his hands.
That's the thing is, first, he just keeps saying all these, he keeps making the fight easier for Ryle. And Ryle's just like starting to get a little uncomfortable with this. He's just like, wait. I don't want to end up killing him and then have his army take that as an excuse to just destroy the city. He's like, so you swear on your oath and you make your officers swear as well that you chose this. Because he says, what is it, full advantage?
Yeah, I think it's something to that effect.
At the same time, I still think Dalinar in a fair fight would still be able to take this guy.
Oh, yeah.
We've already seen him catch something much heavier than a regular blade. Well,
and the thing is, we actually see that because, he starts getting close to the end of the fight. And you see Ryle starting to panic because suddenly he's just like, oh, no, I've got to have 2 minutes with the Blackthorn wet-armed and me not.
2 minutes well worth it.
So I got to do this faster.
Put him out of commission. And so what does he do? Because, he wants to do a show. Like, he wants to impress them. And instead of just absolutely trouncing the kid, he steps into the sword and makes it stab him. Mm-hmm. And then he starts having a conversation with him with the sword sticking through him. And you can see Ryle is just losing it at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, because he's just like, but and Dalinar coughs, spits blood to the side, and he's like, that was a good hit. Just like, dude. He just sucks in Stormlight, and he's just sort of standing there. And then he grabs the blade and pulls it out. And you got to give Ryle credit. He says, your turn. And he's ready. He is ready to face it. And Dalinar's just like, no. You blooded me. That was the rule. Mm-hmm. But it's just, he's basically saying, I am not here to conquer you. If I wanted to conquer you, you would be conquered. You would be destroyed.
It's very much the same argument he did with Elhokar.
And that's the thing is, the Stormfather sort of rumbles in disapproval, and he's just like, this isn't why I'm here.
I took the wrong approach.
And I'm just like, okay, this is really interesting because it makes sense. First off, for Dalinar, that was actually kind of reserved.
Oh, yes.
For the Blackthorn, that was a very reserved approach, but at the same time, it's still the same angle he's been going at for the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then, he sort of realizes, okay, I'm trying to unite them, and that was a little bit divisive. All right, I get it, okay. And so instead, this scene just absolutely blew my mind, because he starts playing with Stormlight. He goes up and he can hear the stones. He can hear the buildings crying out because they've been destroyed and they are not what they imagine themselves to be. Mm-hmm. And so first off, Dalinar's ripped. Like, Dalinar may be an old man, but holy cow, he's just...
As Lift put it, he has a tight butt.
It's just, like, Dalinar would scare the Russian from Rocky 3, or 4, the one who...
Ivan Drago,
the one who looks at him and says, I must break you. And Dalinar just says, you can try.
I must unite you. What?
And so Dalinar just single-handedly lifts this enormous weight, puts a pillar back up, and then seals it together. Mm-hmm. And everybody around is just like, that's not normal.
But we like it.
And so he just starts, calling people together, and he says, help me. And so they all start lifting. He goes around, starts healing the buildings. He literally is healing, and he's literally healing the city.
Mm-hmm. And he realizes that he should bring Renard in.
And
so he calls in Renard.
And that's the thing, is he's just like, that should have been my first response when I saw the SICS. And I like that he says, my son Renard is doing the more important work.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because he's a soldier. He doesn't think about people. Mm-hmm. He thinks on large scales. He's a general. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't look at these people and see that person's hurting. He sees, wow, there's a lot of people hurting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's so it's like the forest, not the trees.
Well, and so he starts putting together the buildings and the monuments. He gives them something to look to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Renard goes in and he starts healing the individuals. And it's a great nod back because, again, this is the son that he had trouble relating to. Like, even when he was an infant, he was just like, I can't connect with my son.
Yeah.
He'd forget he had a second son.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so sad for Renard.
And so it's an acknowledgement that's just a positive for Renard, because he's saying, I'm doing what you're seeing is this amazing thing, but what he's doing, this healing, is more important. And it's just a really cool acknowledgement for Renard, I feel like.
Yeah.
And finally, Queen Finn, she says, all right, I'll come, I'll listen to you, we'll talk about your war. And Dalinar says, that's not enough. And she's like, well, what do you want from me? He's like, the fact that you're calling it my war, or my campaign, or my plan, that's the problem. It needs to be ours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this really, really cool moment.
He gives her an equal part of the table, which is kind of the whole King Arthur thing, where you bring them up to their standard and have everybody rise up to it.
And so suddenly, now he has him, Taravangian, kind of, Queen Finn and Thalen, and then there's the promise from Lift that she'll talk to Yanagon.
Yeah, but that happens later.
The actual meeting happens in part 4, I believe.
No,
it happened here.
That happens in here. You
Does
forgot
it?
that.
Yep.
You forgot that in the notes, yeah.
Oh, gosh, I messed up. Sorry, I've read it a few times lately, and so now I can't remember what's in each part.
Should we just move on to that and then move on to what happens in Caledon?
Absolutely.
I love him in Aesir. It's great.
Yeah, it's really funny. So that's the one he goes all by himself.
That's right.
And Navani sends him with the lunch. I love that. She's like, here's your lunch. And he's just like, oh, okay.
That's right. Oh my gosh, how did I forget this? This is one of
so
my favorite
I
scenes.
love this scene. So he goes in and he doesn't have an interpreter, so they have someone interpreting for him, and they bring just the smaller part of the gate, the Oath Gate, so it's not the whole courtyard, and he debates for a little bit how he's going to tell them that just so you know, it can open bigger, and that's going to be a problem.
It's a market, isn't it?
But it's all cleared out currently, but it's like a market and other stuff, and he's like, they're going to be upset if they know that can be opened up. And I think the original plan is that they're going to let him in, and then they're going to figure out how to close it permanently on their side, because they don't want to have it open at all.
Yeah, they want to lock it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're doing this as a courtesy, but nothing more.
Yeah, and he brings 3 different essays with him.
And then this is just absolutely amazing. Because who wrote the first one? Navani wrote the second one.
It was Fen.
Fen writes the first one. Fen, Navani, and
this whole plan was Fen's. Fen's whole idea was to go in with these nuke bombs of essays.
And even before he does the essays, doesn't he touch the soldier?
No, it's as they're looking over I think it's the second essay.
The second one?
Or the first one, because he's trying to understand what they're talking about.
Right.
And so he makes the motion of, could I get something
I'm
to drink?
thirsty,
And the soldier comes over, and then because he doesn't know how to do it, and the Stormfather's sort of walking him through it.
He's like, go ahead and touch him,
just grabs him.
So he
just
grabs his arm.
Like, he's got me. What do I do?
What do I do?
Well, because again, this is the Blackthorn. It's like, this is the boogeyman that they hear stories about. That it's just like, he's got me. He's going to eat me,
Well, and it's not just that he's the Blackthorn. It's also he's cultural. Like, they think of him the same way we think of gorillas. Like, they think he is so just dumb, ooh, warlike, me conquer. Like, because he's an Alethi after what the Sunmaker did to them.
Right.
And so I just love there's like, you wrote an essay? It's like, yes, we can write. It's a thing.
Or the women wrote the essay, yeah.
Well, and so Finn writes hers, and it's just very, very straightforward, and it talks about the economics and the all the benefits and everything. And then Navani brings in, she talks about trade, I believe. Or no. What does Navani's talk about?
Navani gives them the half-shard schematics, basically saying,
right.
Oh, that's
even if
right,
you
yeah.
won't join us, we have to, like, you guys
Here,
need
we're
this.
That's
we're
right.
going
It's
to share this with you.
It's an exchange of information. And
then Yasna does like the super artful.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's sort of it's like Dalinar's thought process is like when your enemy's reeling, you don't give him a chance to stand up, and it's just like, and whoopah! Here's some more paper. A single sheet. But they look and she's like, she's used all of the different forms of argument, and they're just geeking out over how.
And I mean, it's hilarious to look at it. You're like, oh my goodness, that is all the geeking out right there.
It is the nerdiest fight I have ever seen in a Brandon book, and it's wonderful.
All you have to do is watch like a channel that goes into deep dives on movies and like look at this reference here, look at how they use the lighting here to highlight this. And this is nerds do this. This is what we do. This is what we're doing right now.
This is what we're literally doing at this moment.
And so it's a weird thing to see that. I've never seen it so well articulated in that.
Well, and that's the
book.
thing is, we're doing this right now. Brandon has writing excuses, and it's the same concept. And so you're like, okay, he's actually kind of an authority on this. He can, he does it. He makes this happen, and it's just really funny though seeing, because it's a combination of this geeking out and Dalinar's perspective on tactics, and so he's just like, and a 1 and 2 and here's the NACA.
and the concept of Dalinar and the Stormfather talking out at that point, where the Stormfather's like, this is what you've always been afraid of. That they're pushing you out. All the scribes and scholars are slowly taking over the world, and you don't know how to function in it. And Dalinar realizing that is kind of what I'm terrified of. It doesn't make sense. How is their paper stronger than an army?
Yeah.
But to the Azish, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's
power. This is a group who selects their emperor based on essays. It's a very different world than he's used to, and I just love seeing how awed they are by Yesna, because Yesna being Yesna, absolutely amazing at anything scholarly she does, but the fact that not only are they swayed by the argument, but they're just like, this is a work of art. This is a wonderful gift. Thank you for gracing us with this this amazing masterpiece. And it's such a fun moment.
And then it's immediately followed up with Dalinar's lunch getting eaten by Lift.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, you can come in, and they let him like go into the little thing, but they won't let him in to talk to everybody else. And so then they have him sit in this room, and he's like, I guess I'll eat my lunch. He's like, nothing else to do. And then he looks away for a second or something, and then Lift is eating his lunch.
Because that's what she does. Her favorite food is yours.
Tastes better.
Yeah, obviously. And I just love that they just like hang out and chat, and they're just good.
Lift, I've had such mixed feelings on Lift. Lift paired with Dalinar is wonderful.
It's so
like,
fun.
They are such a good pair.
I love it when she's like, you smell like her. Like who? And she's like, the Night Watcher. And then like the rest of the time they're quiet, because all of a sudden they both realize they've both been to the Night Watcher, and neither one wants to talk about it.
Right.
It's like, we're gonna not talk now. So yeah.
So fun. All right, so while all this is happening, we've got another set of friends who are elsewhere.
Yes.
We are, of course, talking about the expedition to Kholinar. as we said, we've got Shallan and Caledon and Adolin and Elhokar, and then we've got
Ishna, and there's Vatha,
and Vatha,
and there's Red. Isn't it Red?
Is Red there?
I thought there was 2.
Because I thought there were only 6 total.
I think she
And there are
had
2
3.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yeah, I think she had Red or some. I can't remember if it was Red or if it was
Yeah,
somebody
because
else.
Red's the one who was hitting on.
That's right.
Vale, right?
Maybe.
Because when
so.
she
I
finally
remember.
reveals that she's Vale,
Oh, that's right.
it's like
Yeah.
he's just like, oh no.
And then you've got Drahe and Scar, who are kind of on their first full expedition as not Windrunners, but as Surgebinders.
Yeah, and they do awesome.
They really do a good job. They're fun.
They do good.
They're they're well written. I love that they actually like go out drinking with Adolin, and it kind of bugs Caledon.
And this has happened before, yeah. And he's like, "Wait, when did you guys get chummy?" And it's like, "Oh, after we dealt with the Unmade, he took us out for a drink, and it was great."
I love how that rattles Caledon a bit. He's like, "Wait, what?"
Caledon still
You're
has
not supposed
issues.
to like him.
It just it's like the conversation he had with Dalinar when Dalinar told him about the lands he was appointing Caledon to, because Caledon is now a Light Eyes and he's going to be responsible for this. Caledon does not think of himself as a Light Eyes. They're still the other thing that's a problem for everyone else. And whereas Scar and Drahe, people are people because they don't have the same baggage that Caledon has, and they can let things go.
Well, especially because Scar and Drahe, they are soldiers. Like, Scar was a soldier before. What didn't Scar steal his equipment to join?
I think
and
he stole it
soldiers?
from his own
The
from
Black
that
Caps.
group of soldiers.
Yeah, the Black
to get
Caps.
into the Black Caps.
And so
They didn't
he's
take a
just,
while.
and that's what Adolin. He is a Light Eyes, but he's also very much a soldier. And so they relate to him on that. And this is also in the point where the weird little triangle thing is still kind of going on, and there's a little jealousy between both of, like, each of them is a little jealous of the other, and Shallan doesn't know what she wants because she's 3 people.
She's got so much confusion going on. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that girl.
I don't know what you're talking about. Shallan seems like a picture of stability.
Why are you lying, liar?
Lies.
Lies.
But yeah, so yeah, it's just a little awkward. I do love the fact that Adolin kind of connects with the men on that level, and of course, so they have to sneak in as refugees.
This is where Shallan comes in.
Because if they fly in, then the flying fused are going to come and take them out, and the end. And
that's one of the bad endings on the Choose Your Own Adventure.
It's like this is only book 3. We don't want to, we've still got a lot to go. We can't let the end happen now.
We can't have any important party members die.
Hush you.
Oh.
But I love that Shallan, poor Caledon,
It's
she
the
just
worst
makes
face.
him, and like, I love the fact that Brandon doesn't go into a whole lot of detail. He just has everybody going, ugh.
I'm just,
he needs help. He doesn't look well.
To me, the funnier part was the fact that they changed Elhokar to a light-eyed woman and no one batted an eye.
Even him.
Exactly the same.
He's like, nope, this makes sense. And he's just like, I gotta get it done, so this is the way it happens. And
it's also a very good moment for Elhokar. Because, he's sort of whiny and all about appearances. And you'd think that if anyone is going to be, how dare you,
hyper masculine about it, it would be him. But he's
and
nope.
He probably would have in the previous 2 books.
And so it's a good growth moment for him.
Yeah,
he's
he's
just like,
finally
this'll work.
let
Let's
go of trying to be his father and just trying to be a good king, which is where his focus needs to be.
Like Brandon has said, his first truth would have been, I'm a bad king. And the fact that so this right here sort of shows him coming closer to acknowledging that. All too late.
Oh, did something happen?
Just something later. Also, I love that the person that Adolin chooses in the city who he trusts more than anyone is his tailor. It's just like, of course it's his tailor.
It's his tailor. Come on.
Why wouldn't it be? It's the person he trusts his life to.
I know. Important things.
And of course, his tailor sees him and she's like, oh, those are so... that uniform is so out of style. He's like, oh, no. What?
He's like, oh, no. I got the pamphlets, I thought. And she's like, no, those are way out of date. And they're all leaning towards, to the military.
The Leophorids are just... They're soaking you guys. Well, the other reference to Leophor I love is from Aesir, where Aesir starts like, hey, this person will probably come, this coming from. Leophor will come as long as they can cater the storming meeting.
Oh, man. He's just like, just the back and forth between them, and Caledon's just sort of sitting back just like, what's happening? What's going on right now?
To say that Caledon's out of his element is a bit of an understatement.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's not just out of his element, though. He's just like, Adolin, you're being a fop. Adolin, why are we focusing on clothes? And it's a delightful, just because they're having fun off in the corner, and Caledon's just like, this doesn't make sense. No.
Well, it's something Caledon mentioned. Like, a stealth mission is just not his forte, because Caledon has never blended in, no matter where he goes. No matter what he tries to do, he always sticks out, and he doesn't know how not to.
Which is why Shallan gives him such a horrible appearance, because then he'll stand out for the wrong reasons. The disguise goes away. Nobody knows it was him.
Yeah.
So basically, like, she was talking with Ishna.
Ichabod.
Ishna, about, where they were just saying, this is how you distract. Gaz has one eye, but you make him just completely drunk on a table.
No one's going to notice
nobody's going to notice the eye. And that's basically the same thing that she does here with Caledon.
I like when she reveals that she's Vale. I love the moment between her and Ishna, where Ishna's like, I had it backwards. Which one was the false personality?
And she's like, they both are.
They were both poisoned. She's spent the last several years building up an immunity to iocane powder.
To reality.
Wait,
no.
But yeah.
I mean, that's basically what she does.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. She says that they're both facades, which that's also kind of a disturbing thing, because Shallan is supposed to be
the real
her.
one.
Well,
Yeah.
she has that thought several times where she's like, no, you idiot, that's you.
Well, like, again, when she was talking about maybe she could, in the last part, she was talking about maybe I could create a persona who's a scholar. Just like, wait, no, that's you.
That's me. That's my normal one. That's what I am.
And you can see she's just sort of descending into losing herself in these, to the point where even Pattern starts getting a little freaked out.
Yeah. Because he likes lies and all, but you got to have some truth in there, too.
But yeah, I like that, when she reveals it to him, she's so blasé about it. He's just like, well, Vale's got to go change. And they're just sort of like,
what?
Oh, wow. And, that's when Rez just like, uh-oh.
I was flirting with the boss.
Yeah, that somehow never came up amongst the Windrunners. And, like, Drahe just at no point has hit on Caledon, so, it never came up.
Yeah. But Vatha, I love Vatha's response. He raises an eyebrow and then he just sort of gives her a one-fingered salute. He's like nice. Because Vatha just doesn't rattle. It's who he's been from the very beginning.
You do see one moment where he does get a little bit surprised.
Yes,
but
you
that's
do,
later.
and it's wonderful. Actually, no, we can talk about that now.
Okay.
That's just, I like talking about Vatha.
It's later, and he starts realizing that he can draw in Stormlight and hold his own illusion over himself. He doesn't make the drawing, but But
what
he
happens,
uses her
though, is he sees somebody, I think, who might recognize him, or was it an authority?
No, they were in a
authorities?
closed room, and the guy comes in to give them a drink, and Vava freaks and covers his face with the illusion.
And he's just like, "Why did you do that?" And she's like, "I didn't do it.
That wasn't me. That was you."
We might have to switch up your training regimen a little bit.
It's like, yeah, we got to have some chats about that.
So, which means Shallan is now starting to develop her own squires. Mm-hmm. And so now we have squires from 2 different orders.
Yes.
Now, apparently, not all orders have squires.
Yeah, because Spawn Smiths don't.
And
Oathbringer, Stone...
and
Oathbringer, yeah. What are they called now?
Stone Wardens.
Stone Wardens also don't, I believe. I
Yes.
could be wrong on that one. But, that and Windrunners, their resonance is that they have a lot and they're strong. That, like, they're almost Radiants, which it makes sense. They're sort of the light cavalry
Yeah.
of the
Stormlight
fighting
Cavalry,
force.
if you will.
Wow. I'm not even mad. I'll just give you that one.
I'm going to pat myself on the back right now. I'm just,
Oh, good.
Episode title, Stormlight Cavalry. Got it. All right. And then she just sort of goes out kind of... and Shallan has a nice little adventure at the palace.
Yeah, so
a completely
Ellicor has
normal
her
adventure.
deliver a note, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, and she has Vatha wait away from where she is, and she's going to meet up with him.
No, it was
But-
Caledon.
Yeah.
Was it Caledon?
Yeah,
She goes
Vatha's
out-
the second time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she went out just sort of searching around, and I think she ran into Caledon. Actually.
No, it was
She
it
met
was-
up with him on purpose because
okay.
she went
Yeah.
out early to wander around and get her footing, and then she
That's
met
right.
Caledon
Yeah, because
at a well. or something.
Ellicar's like, well, I'm sure Brightness Devar wouldn't mind, and she's like, in her head, kind of. I don't want him to know about I'm Vale.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not
and so
comfortable with that
she
yet.
goes out, she takes on the Veil persona, and then disguises herself as Lynn.
She's like, okay,
And that's where he's
I am
like,
Vale
yeah, I know it's
disguised as Lynn.
So
got-
she doesn't
good
take
point.
on the Lynn persona. She takes on the Veil persona with Lynn's face. Mm-hmm. And it's just this whole convoluted mess in her head.
Oh, it gets all convoluted for her
And of course, Caledon recognizes her because he knows, Lynn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And she goes
And then
into
she
the
goes to the palace and she says, I have a message for the queen. And they immediately stab her and dump her body.
Yeah. They let her come in and then they stab her and dump
Right.
her body.
She
she
don't
has
want to be
to-
rude.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And she has to really fight to not over heal herself, like heal herself enough so she's not going to die, but not react until they dump her.
She uses what Yesna did as sort of a pattern for what she did. She
Yeah.
just thinks, okay, Yesna barely kept any in so that they didn't think. And I realized also, if she's got Stormlight in her, she doesn't have to breathe. Mm-hmm. And so...
Because it's healing
easier.
the damage of not having oxygen to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easier for her to play dead.
Yeah.
Until she accidentally blinked against Shot and Not in the mirror.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
nah.
that's what that was. I'd forgotten.
But so she goes out, she's dumped with the rest of the bodies, comes back, and it's just sort of okay, there's something wrong at the palace. Things are
not good.
It was interesting
They're-
when she
it's
finally
not
gets out to
hunky-dory.
Caledon. She makes the pun about, they got their point across. And in her head, she's freaking out. She's like, please laugh. Please let it be all right.
I love that moment.
It's
makes the
weird to
joke.
me. It's like, why does she need him to say it's all right?
I think
needs
she
the
just needs
outside-
someone.
Well,
I think
it's
she
'cause
just needs
needs-
someone.
Yeah, it's interesting just because I think it's a good look at her psyche, like, as it is at the moment. She has no internal bearings anymore. She needs someone else outside of her to help stabilize her. At the
She
moment.
needs external validation that
Also-
someone else is there.
I don't know if either of you have ever had a panic attack. When you're
Sort of.
having a panic attack, the calmness of other people can be helpful as long as they're not telling you to be calm. Mm-hmm. And so it's just sort of like, I need some evidence that it's going to be okay. And and so she just sort of needed a moment. Like, she needed him to smile. She needed that comfort. She doesn't want him to tell her it's okay. She wants him to behave in a way that indicates it's okay.
That's it. I will say Caledon's pun game is getting better. because you have I forget what the pun for that one was, but later on
take a stab at it.
Yeah, take a stab at that's what it was. But later on with Adolin, when they're starting to talk about punchy guys and axolicious folks, he's like use psychological warfare. He could really get into his head, and it's like, oh, he's getting better at this.
Oh, nice.
He's trying.
Well played. All right, good job. But then, this is where some of my favorite moments in this section come in, because during, because she keeps doing sort of these walkabouts, figuring out what's going on in the city, and she comes across a man telling a story. And who is that man? It's Wit, also known as Hoyd, also known as my very favorite. And just when you put Shallan and Wit together, magic happens. And I'm not talking Stormlight.
But
magic
that too
happens.
Because I don't know what he's doing with that smoke, but he's doing something.
One of the reasons that I love seeing Wit and Shallan together is that Shallan has walls upon walls upon walls that she has built up. And Wit picks them apart piece by piece, just drops them. And suddenly she's just in a very, very raw state. And he comforts her in that state. If somebody's comforting you when you have walls up, it's not very... That's the problem with walls, is that it... Not only does it keep the bad stuff out, it also keeps the good stuff out.
Yeah.
And he's able to just break that down, and then he just hugs her. And he tells her, "You're not a monster." When he... this is skipping ahead a little bit, but when he tells her the story of the girl who stood up, is the name of the chapter. And, oh gosh, it's just...
That is such a good chapter.
There's just healing that you can see. Each time he talks to her, he breaks her down, and then he just starts to heal the wounds.
He fixes a little bit more of it, and then the next time he breaks her down and fixes a little bit more.
Because she tells the story as she had told it before, and she ends it at the top of the wall when she realizes it's to keep them in. And he says, but on the other side of that wall was God's light, was this warm thing. And if I'm remembering right, she took some of that light back with her, didn't she?
Yes, she steals a little bit, and then they can't extinguish it because there's a piece of it there on the other side.
And it's just...
the other thing that's interesting about it is the fact that as he does it, I think he lets his walls down as well.
Yes. Oh, well, what was it? I'm trying to remember. Oh, we talked about it in The Emperor's Soul, where Shai, to manipulate Gautona, she says, "I have to be genuine." And Wit works the same way. In order to work with Shallan, he opens himself up. And you see the pain that's in him as well.
Because someone who has that many walls up, they're not going to accept what you're saying unless you have your walls down. Because they will recognize the walls and go, nope, I'm not. You're keeping yourself distance from me, so I'm not going to open up to it either.
And that's why he's able to pull her walls down, is because he has the same sort of pain inside, and he recognizes it.
It's interesting because he's interacted with so many characters in the Stormlight Archive. We've seen him a little bit in things like Mistborn and Warbreaker and such, but never in those books is he really interacting with someone to try and help them specifically. It seems like he's more trying to help the overall situation. He's there in a more strategic manner than this close one. But we've now seen him interact very closely with Caledon, Dalinar, and Shallan. But even when he's helping Caledon and Dalinar, he hasn't been as open with them, because with them he's trying to get them to see just a different angle. Shallan doesn't have an issue seeing a different angle. Shallan sees way too many different angles. Like that's her problem. And it's more about getting her to confront, like, just the truth within her. Because I love obviously, again, jumping ahead, but I love the line where he's just like, you know, accept the pain, but you know, you're not. Like the pain isn't you. What's the line? Accept
You're able
pain,
to move past it. Is it that what it is?
or you're able to feel it, or like don't accept that you are the pain, or dang it, I'm butchering the line and I hate it.
Basically, it's just the pain is a part of you. It is not you.
Oh no, it's a way more beautiful line. But he's never opened himself up to a character like this before. And I'm a big fan of the theory that part of this might be that he has a daughter, and so he may see something of his daughter in Shallan.
And he saw her as a little girl too. So
Yeah.
he knew her as a child. Yeah.
And again, just a beautiful scene.
It's terrible to have been hurt. It's unfair and awful and horrid. But Shallan, it's okay to live on.
Yeah, it's just And that's the thing is, it's okay to live on, you know, because people, when the other thing is when she's talking about how, you know, she's fallen into all these horrible things and they've, you know, and just all the situations she's been in and the things she's done, and she's thinking she's worse for it. And Wit says, "You're not worse for interacting with the world. The world is better for interacting with you." Mm-hmm. That's a paraphrase, but
It's what's interesting is this is sort of like the better version of, not better, but more deep version of the conversation that Caledon was having with Scar and Drahe, where he was really pissed off that the Light Eyes are having all these parties in the middle of this the siege, and then Scar and Drahe are like, "Hey, you ever gone drinking in the middle of a war? Have you ever like gone to a festival in the middle of a war?
Have you ever relaxed at all during a war, slightly, you know, for just a minute or anything?"
Yeah, and Caledon's
just
like, "No,
escape.
it's somehow different," and it's just one of these things. They're both having to figure out how to be okay with the fact that there's bad things in the world, but it's okay to still be happy. Mm-hmm. Now, for Caledon, it's a much more big thing because Caledon puts the world on his shoulders at all times. Mm-hmm. For Shallan, it's the weight of her own sins, you know, that she lets weigh her down. But they're both sort of struggling with the same thing.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think is interesting because he doesn't interact with him directly, but Pattern is there for all of this. Mm-hmm. And after it's over, he's talking to Shallan, and he's just like, he feels like one of us, like a Spren. I'm just like, okay, that's a very interesting take. You know, seeing Pattern's response to Hoid is just delightful, especially.
What do you think he means by that?
I think part of it is Hoid is one of the most invested people in the world, so he's got a lot of investiture. He spent a lot of time in the cognitive realm, and he's not really a part of any world. And he's just mysterious as well. I think there's more to it than that, but I'm just...
The thing I think he might be referring to, and I don't, that was a line I really sort of tried to ponder on, was Spren are sort of unaffected by the world around them because they are what people sort of imagine them to be. And it's why Pattern and Syl come to the world, is to become more. He affects the world around him and doesn't seem to be affected by it. He's a catalyst of change. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what he means. I feel like there's something really deep to that line, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Oh, there, and that's the thing, is I think we're going to have to wait to get a little bit more payoff on that.
It just came to me that maybe he's also talking about Radiance too, because we know things happen later with Wit.
Right. That's also true. Well, especially because he also becomes a Rosharan Lightweaver. So I mean,
that's another thought. I mean, there may be layers to what Pattern is saying.
And that's the other thing, is he's already a Lightweaver. A different kind of Lightweaver, but he's a Lightweaver.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention it, but when he's doing that first story,
stuff,
and he's
with the smoke.
he's burning stuff, I'm wondering if he's using sand from Taldane.
Oh, he's definitely using sand from Taldane.
Because he has dark sand and light sand.
You notice she saw the jar and it was pointing towards her, and part of it was glowing, and Wit was a little bit rattled.
Yeah, Wit quickly hides it.
I think that but I don't think he was just hiding it. I think that, because it was like the side that was facing her, she said, was light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know it can behave like this from words of Brandon, because this was actually something that came up in people asking about the things that Moraes had in his office.
Yes, but the fact that it was just fully bright, it almost looks like it had been invested.
Well, no, but Brandon talks about how you can use it as a detector of people using investiture, because it'll point towards people who are using investiture. It was something.
Okay.
I'd have to find this specific one because I didn't realize it worked like that.
Uh-huh.
I didn't either.
But it was like, why would he have that? Well, because it's a detector of people using investiture, and that's why Moraes would have it. The part that I find interesting is that he's using it when we know he's also an allomancer, and he could easily use bronze to try and seek out different things.
And nobody on Roshar should be able to sense that.
But maybe they can sense burning metals the same way the Screamers sense burning, or not burning, but using fabrics.
Lashings and stuff like that.
So maybe this is somehow... I mean, we don't know the mechanics of everything going on, but I found it interesting that he was using it for some purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or he was using it somehow with what he was doing
and
for
that,
his
his
display.
Storytelling. And that's
and
another possibility.
Yeah, and the fact that it was detecting is secondary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's...
Also that poor bartender. Or storekeeper, or whatever he is.
Well,
Innkeeper?
I also love that he's telling the story that Sigil tried to tell and butchered earlier.
Mm-hmm. He does a much better job.
You're like a moon, and the moon wants to be a person, and of course Hoyd tells it much better.
So eloquent, yes. And I did like that story because the moon's trying to play the queen, but the queen ends up playing the moon. Mm-hmm. So
I also love when he finally tell him I disappeared somehow mysteriously, and he's just hiding behind the door, and
Batman exit,
and he leaves going behind him, and he's like, where did he go off to? And she's just disappears.
I don't know.
He said he'd treat me like a king. Well, he's doing that because she's seen how he treats Elokar. It's just yep,
same way.
This is he's an equal opportunity offender.
Yep. Oh man. All right, so I never want to move on from talking about Hoy, but we really need to. So Shallan also starts sort of wandering around and spreading food because she wants to catch the attention of the revelers.
Yeah, because she's trying to get an invite to the revel.
Cult of moments.
She wants to get in.
What?
She wants to get into the inner circle. What don't
cults improve? Don't cults tend to just really spruce up the neighborhood?
Jordan, don't even joke. Because what'll happen is we'll get a listener who says, "Ooh, Jordan likes cults. I'll start worshiping him," and that's not a good thing, Jordan.
This sounds like a feature, not a bug.
No, Jordan.
No. So anyway, she's stealing food, and
the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies does not support the worship of Jordan Splice,
unless they do
by any means. All of those opinions saying otherwise are those of Splice and Splice alone.
Whatever. Amy's totally on board with this. Right, Amy?
No.
She's nodding her head for the audio-only listeners.
So anyway, but yeah, she does some raids, and she pretends to be a lady who's over demanding and stuff, and so they're stealing all the food and getting out of there. And she freaks people out because she starts, because they get caught and the gate gets closed on them, and so she turns around on the cart. And she just switches between faces, and it scares everybody super bad.
Well, and then she convinces everybody that she's a spren.
Well, she takes a storming arrow to the face.
Yeah, and she keeps talking with the arrow in her face.
And Voth is just like, what the crap?
That's a little
weird.
creepy.
What have I signed up for?
Yep.
Yeah. And then she tries to play the hero and is giving out food and thinks she's doing a really great job. But she...
Holy cow, we're already an hour in.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Look,
keep moving.
So much.
It's dense. It's so dense.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already talked a lot about the resolution of this storyline, where Shallan is like, it's understandable why she goes into her complete meltdown after
yeah.
finding out, it turns out I made everything worse. And it's because she was playing a role and she had convinced herself that the role was real. It's like, no, you don't actually have this expertise.
You're not actually streetwise. You just know how to act like you're streetwise, but you don't really think fully through what's going to happen with the other situations.
Yeah, it's just a heartbreaking moment when poor kid.
Well, and he curses her name as he's dying.
As he's dying, he's like, "I hate you."
His last words are, "I hate you."
Can we just twist this knife just a little bit more, right? Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, and then she gets it like doubly confirmed because she runs into the lady with her daughters before she's getting out, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, we hate you too, and better him than me," you know.
Yeah. The other thing is when she draws the picture of Elokar.
Yeah.
And just how much it touches him. And the thing is, she doesn't draw him just as noble. She draws him as beaten, but looking up. Mm-hmm. Like, he's kneeling on the ground, but he's got this look of hope. And it just really hits Elokar, and he loves it, and he
keeps it with him.
He keeps it with him to the point where he's looking at it as he's speaking the oaths at the very end of this section. And gosh, it's just it's amazing.
Rough.
Oh, so this part was a little raw for you guys? It hurt?
Just a little bit. There's emotions.
I want to talk a little bit about the revel as we jump ahead.
Man.
Okay.
So that place is insane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I love the return of the Ardent that's really horrible at his job. Lahan, that was his name originally. And then
I don't remember what his new name is.
It's just, I just love. He's like, no, it's like, it's okay, just enjoy it. It's not our fault. She was like, he starts basically talking to himself again. You're just like, man, if it weren't for the fact that God was dead, you were so going to hell. You are the absolute worst enabler I have ever seen.
Oh, man.
Well, and of course, you can also see that everybody's just sort of getting caught up in Asheret Marn's aura.
Oh, yeah.
And Shallan would have fallen to it as well,
if
right?
It hadn't been
without
for Pattern.
Pattern, yeah. Pattern keeps her safe.
Well, there's actually the biggest one was Shah Anat. Because Shallan was ready to really fall for it when she got to the center, and Ja Anat is the one who sort of
she's
woke
like, don't
her
do
up.
it. Don't do it.
And
yeah,
it's very interesting. Just it's one of these things. The thrill as a mindless sprint is interesting because it gives you that lust for battle that can push you forward. This thing's a mindless sprint too, but what does it give you? It's like
whole spectrum.
Yeah.
One thing I'm noticing is each of these unmade, it seems like the embodiment of a different form of passion. Which, with Odium's whole declaration of I'm not hate, I'm passion. I mean,
we know they're splinters of him.
And that's kind of what they're giving. They're not giving hate. They're giving different passion. And so, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I still think Odium is hate. His hate is hate is hate. But there is at least something to what he's saying.
For you to hate, you have to have passion. And so it's almost like they've distanced themselves because they got made and then unmade. And they splinter out into different versions of passion from
different
there.
Aspects of it.
Different aspects of passion. And so...
That's
how I kind of picture it.
So very interesting word of Brandon. Well, it's not actually a word of Brandon. It was a word of Peter Alston. Where someone who speaks Spanish was asking, are they unmade as in they were made and then unmade? Or are they unmade as in they were never made before? Because in Spanish, which I don't think we have the Spanish localization yet, it's, those are two different words. Like they can't have the same meaning. And he said, I think it means they were never made, but I could be wrong about that.
Except that Stianat actually says we were made and then unmade.
Yeah, and so that's what's interesting is it's a weird, like
linguistically put it out. Yeah.
But no, then I love Shalon's. She eventually goes with the plan of, well, KAT, I'm out of here, and just jumps.
And she jumps off the platform.
That was her plan to beginning. It was just to jump out when she couldn't.
Originally, that was the emergency plan, and in the middle of the heart, she's like, "Nope, got to get out of here." And so Shalon has now basically died twice in the palace.
It's like Jordan and I have played World of Warcraft for quite some time now, and one of the main cities on the Horde side is Thunder Bluff, which is up on these giant plateaus. Now, as a druid, to leave, I typically will just run, jump off the edge, turn into a bat, and fly off. And that's just sort of the feeling she gets. Is just like, okay, high up.
Except she does it more like a shaman who jumps off splats and then uses reincarnate to keep going.
Right. That's true. That's very, very true. But yeah, it just was very it reminded me of playing WoW. It's like, I've done that before.
Man.
But yeah, so
we
haven't even talked about the wall guard.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yes.
Lady Azure.
Yes.
Lady Azure, we kind of got to talk about. Okay, this is one of those moments where we're spoiling stuff outside of Stormlight, so if that bothers you, look away, but if not, here we go.
Yes.
Guys, Lady Azure. We have another...
With scars.
We have another Nalthian refugee.
They're popping up like daisies.
So that's 3 Nalthians that we now have on Roshar at the moment.
3?
Don't forget Nightblood.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I keep thinking of people-sized Nalthians.
He's about people-sized from the
He's big.
Of him.
Anyway.
I guess maybe technically 4, depending on what's up with her blade.
Yeah, yeah, we don't know much about that.
No, but it's interesting.
It's a she.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, I forgot. But I love her conflict with Caledon, where Caledon's like just sits at the table right next to it. But my favorite part is his superior, who, like Brandon describes him as, like his hands are outstretched, just like, no, and I'm just like, I play XCOM, so this feeling is very similar. You're just like, why? Stop.
This is me with my children. I'm like, don't do it, don't.
It's everyone has been that captain. At no point have I connected more with a character than that captain at that moment.
I think his name is Noro. Yeah,
Noro. And then the wall guard comes. I love how both Caledon and Vivina are the ones who are like, everyone get to... It's like, Caledon can't not be bossy. It just comes second nature to him.
Of course, then he kills a fused and blows everyone's minds. It's like, okay, we'll trust this guy, because at the attack on the palace, Lady Azure's off doing other stuff, and they just like, without our captain, we have nobody to follow. So we'll follow Caledon.
This sounds like a good plan. Yes, we'll
follow the new guy.
And I just love Caledon trying to fight Fuse, but not trying to be too Stormlighty. And he's like, I don't know, surge bind casually.
I love Godless Rebel's comment there.
What did he say?
I love Godless Rebel's comment. He says, I love Adolin's comment bringing him back to their HQ. Great. He's probably their leader or something.
And of course he is.
Yes.
Because it's what Caledon does.
It's just what he does.
Well, and it's a great little tension reliever as far as this whole thing before going to the palace, where everything just goes so wrong.
Yeah. So before I forget, I know we were talking about how Caledon's been having the conflict with being a Light Eyes but not being a Light Eyes, and him just being stuck in between that. He also has the chats with the guards, the wall guard, about how they're all Light Eyes, but he realizes they're a lot like the Dark Eyes in that they have all the different nons, and Adolin's a whole other level than they normally are. And he's like, oh, right, I'm supposed to not think of things the way that I do, and he catches himself feeling really awkward when he's talking about.
Well, it's a continuation of his whole story with the Parshman that he was with, where he's having issues. He used to have all these nice little dividers where he could go us versus them and figure things out, and his walls are breaking down.
It's all getting muddied up.
And it comes to a head during the attack because suddenly he's got friends with the wall guard. There's the city guard. There's the and then suddenly Moash shows up with the Parshmen that he knew, and they're killing each other.
Yeah.
Like they're just cutting each other
And
down.
he's sitting here, and
that was a brutal scene.
Yeah, because poor.
I mean, like,
it's
because Brandon
awful.
has worked to build up these characters. I mean, like Beard is basically Lopin 2.0, and he's just cut down.
Yeah.
Just
and Noro and all, and he
so
just has
suddenly.
to watch them die. Yeah.
And they're
he's
again, these
so-
people that he cares about are killing each other, and he's screaming, "Stop, stop!" But none of them can hear him because there's just this
and
battle.
He's too
fury.
emotionally
Fog of war.
frozen. Yeah.
And then Moash steps forward and stabs Elokar through the chest,
And then leaves it there.
He is, but that's the thing is, Elokar is speaking the first ideal,
And he's so
and
close to being
begins
done.
to glow. And it's just one of those moments where you're just like, this is one of those amazing Brandon moments that you're building up, and then Moash comes and takes it away. And I think that's one of the reasons that people are just so angry. Like people, when I say people, I'm talking readers, are so angry at Moash. There's a whole subreddit. It's not suitable for what we're going to say. Just it's F
Storm
Moash.
Moash.
Yeah.
Yes.
That said,
And-
you got to admire his technique. He made sure to double tap.
Oh yeah. He stabs him through the chest, and then he stabs him through the eye and holds it there until the stormlight winks out. But you're just because like you're just building up to one of those amazing moments where you just go and you see Elokar and Caledon, is just watching him with this grin on his face, just like, yes, Elokar, say it. And he gets one word away. And then Moash comes up, stabs him. And again, he's staring at the picture that Shallan drew of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
then
ready
Moash
to
has
take on
the gall to salute.
the absolute gall. He looks Caledon in the eyes as he's backing away. He does the Bridge 4 salute and then disappears.
See, that's the moment that is just even harsher because you really want to have that dramatic moment where somebody comes in and chops off Moash's head or something, just to
Caledon
take
go
out
into
that
a blood rage or something.
or something, and it doesn't happen, and so you just have all that tension just stay there.
And
just-
I'm sure not killing Moash there won't come to bite
Oh.
us in the butt.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, though. It's like at this point, like he was doing what he did. The salute made it personal because like he was doing his thing. Like he wanted revenge on Elokar. That's understandable. But looking at Caledon and doing the Bridge 4 salute, it's such
so-
a perversion of what the Bridge 4 salute is.
It's because it's so tone deaf. Like I'm sure for Moash, he thinks of it as I'm showing him respect or something. Like I don't think Moash means it as an insult. Because he does like Caledon. He's still like,
Except
But
that
he's
at this
so full
point
of
he's
self-hate.
at this point he's also fully joined the other side.
yeah,
And
but
he's
he doesn't view, he views Caledon as mixed up, fighting for the wrong side. He doesn't think Caledon is a bad person or anything like that. It's it's tone deaf. He is so far gone that he sees it as respectful, not, oh wow, I sort of betrayed literally everything Caledon stands for.
It's one of those, how dare you? Just,
Read the room, Moash.
oh gosh.
And then
And
Aesudon
so-
shows up.
Oh man,
Well,
she needs
well,
to.
and meanwhile, Shallan has, quote, driven off the heart of the revel.
But she's really doubting herself, and she's having some serious.
But then we
freaking
find out that no, she didn't drive it off.
it left.
It was it left. It was a ploy. It was a ruse to get him to commit too much so that they can just destroy them. And
Well, and it should have
then-
destroyed them.
Yeah. But then Siana, one of the other unmade. This is where I'm just like, Brandon, what are you doing?
What's going on?
Yeah, because I'm sitting here trying to think, do we trust Xia not? There have been mentions of an unmade who may have been willing to switch sides, but this is also the one that corrupts everything that it touches. What is going on? I don't know what to trust, and it just frustrates me in all the best ways.
The corruption of Spren is such a weird concept because Shallan's own notes say it doesn't change how we feel. Like, it's like her shame Spren that she summoned. Yeah, it looks like shattered glass, but she felt shame normal as ever. And hunger Spren, for some reason, weren't affected by everything.
Yeah, that I don't understand that.
Or glory Spren.
I wonder if
I thought
Hunger
glory
Spren
Spren were. No, Spren were. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, glory Spren we saw from Elhokar.
Okay.
I don't know if this actually works, but my thought was that maybe Hunger Spren aren't affected by the corruption because they're only something that humans feel. Spren do not feel hunger.
But at the same time...
But that doesn't totally fit because there's other things that aren't affected too. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, and the other thing that's weird is, like, you look at everything, you're like, okay, what does it mean to corrupt a Spren? I don't know. But
and that's the thing, is we don't know what the corruption is.
But everyone knows what's corrupted, and everything that's corrupted, the Spren looks so much harsher than it would normally. And it's interesting, that's probably an effect of humans thinking, if this were corrupted, what would it look like? It would look somehow wrong or evil. And
she's also known as the Taker of Secrets, which we still don't know exactly what that means. And so, but the other thing is that Xia Anat is the one who corrupts the Spren. Renarin has a corrupted Spren. So,
well, she tells them, like, you can ask did she say my son or child or something like that?
I think it was son. I thought it was son.
Yeah.
But it'll it'll be interesting to see. Bliss. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Because it sounds like they are going to at some point approach Xia Anat for some sort of treaty or alliance or something, but we don't know exactly how all that's going to work out yet.
All I know is when they end up in Shadesmar, I just love first of all Brandon's ability to write the otherness of Shadesmar is top notch, but I also just love, like, as they get there, I just love Azure. I hate this place.
I hate this place.
Which is just one of those great lines.
I did like that it was Adolin's point of view, and it kind of felt like a mirror of when Shallan first goes into it and she falls into all the beads. And
I didn't even think
Adolin
about
who does. And so it's just kind of a cool imagery in that he has no way to deal with it, no idea what's going on, and so is it Shallan, and Shallan pulls him up.
Well,
so she's kind of returning the favor.
Well, then he, like, patterns talking with his weird head. He bumps into Syl.
I know!
And then here's his Deadeye's sword right there.
And here's poor Adolin going, weird, 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 extra weird, weird, weird. It's just like all of the weirdness. And
well, especially because it's like weird. I at least recognize each of these things. That's new. And then he finds out later that, that's your shard blade that you've been talking to all these years.
That's Maya that you've been talking to. Yeah. It's Maya, right, that he calls
her? Yeah, Maya. Yeah. Okay, now we still haven't... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and for me, it was just one of those things. We end there, and that felt like the end of the book. Like, that's, oh, man, what a good cliffhanger to end the book on. And then it's like, there's a whole other 2 books left in this book.
I've got almost half the book left.
So much book.
Like, seriously, there's 5 books shoved into this book, and it's insane.
Well, to be fair, if he didn't do it that way, then there would be 50 Stormlight books.
And that's not an important number, so we can't have that.
Now, we haven't talked about Dalinar's flashbacks. This got dark. This, you understand why Dalinar was drunk out of his mind on the night that Gavilar was killed. You understand why Dalinar may have gone to the Night Watcher. You just start to figure out, okay, because you knew it had to be something big.
And this is big.
Because, they're they have the campaign, and he meets with, first off, Adolin's there. like 12-year-old Adolin.
Yes.
And, they're just having, they're having it's sort of the Simba and Mufasa moment is like, let an old pro show how it's done. We're pouncing. And he's sort of teaching his son all the different tactics and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to meet with Tantalon. And, there's all sorts of posturing and yelling. And then as he's leaving, Tantalon's just like, what if we made it look like this was all a ruse and I was helping you to smoke out traitors? And Dalinar says, okay. He's like, because there is a traitor.
Well, and that's so nefarious because he's got Dalinar when Dalinar's trying to be a better person.
For Evie. For Evie, yeah.
At which which later on sets Dalinar off even worse. Because he's like, I came to you in good faith.
And you just did that to me.
Mm-hmm. No. He's like, and it's just like, I came to you in a rare moment seeking peace, and you burned me.
Which totally
and
explains
so
why
I'm going to burn you and
which is why he
you
flips so hard, because he tried to be nice, and then it got
and not
slapped
only
in the
that,
face.
Not only that, he implicates Sadeas, who at this point is Dalinar's best friend.
Yeah.
And it's what creates the seeds of all the horrible Sadeas Dalinar stuff later on. It all starts here because Sadeas is horribly offended that Dalinar thought.
He's like, well, he is and he isn't. Like, he's surprised, and then Dalinar says, I was being safe. I've been tempted before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it kind of is the seed.
Yeah.
But like, when he goes off and they're ambushed by the rock slide, and he's, his helm has exploded and he's just sort of beaten up and battered in his shard plate, and that's the only reason he's alive.
And then he plays dead too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then he climbs out, and the soldiers are sort of looking around, and they see him and they rush him. And
well, no, they're digging him out,
right?
And he waits until they get him enough out that he can get out, and then he comes out and starts attacking. And they're like, "Oh no, now we gotta flee."
All I could think of is, even though I know it didn't happen that way, I just want to imagine a scene like as they're digging out, all of a sudden his hand just like bursts out and just like starts choking one of them in some horror movie type scene.
Now, one of the things that I think is just some great writing by Brandon is the scene closes at that point. And then it comes back, all he sees is red. Oh. And then he's just got the head of a man, like of a corpse, in his hands. Oh. And he drops it, and just everyone around him is dead.
Everybody.
And it's like, Brandon doesn't show that. He leaves that to your imagination.
Yeah.
And
then he drags himself back.
He drags himself and his shard blade because the stone
is broken, and so he can't dismiss it.
And so he just drags himself back to camp, comes in all battered.
He looks scary.
And he's just like, we're going to burn this place to the ground and salt the earth so that generations will never live here for fear of the ghost that will haunt, because there will be no one left here to cry. And it's just like, dude.
and poor Evie, she's so freaked out.
And so
here she goes from thinking her husband is dead to, he looks super scary, and he is the angriest she's probably ever seen him. And that's just...
And she realizes he is going to destroy these people, and so she goes to plead with Tantalon to surrender. She's like, trust me, you want to surrender, please.
There will be no mercy. Yeah, it will not go well.
But little does she know, like, no, we're already past that. There's already no mercy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's some of the naivete of just who Evie is. She's just such an
optimist.
Such a sincere person that she can't imagine that there's ever a point of no return. And she pays for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah, but like at that moment, that's the avatar of Odium right there.
Oh yeah.
That's who Odium is saying, he will be mine. And that's why cultivation did what she did. Because of that, because it was taken from him, and because it was revealed at the moments it was revealed, he was able to work through it so that when Odium comes to him, he says no.
I can deal with this pain. It is mine. You don't get to take it.
Yes.
Yeah, that whole scene. And it's right after how, oh, look, everything's working great with Aesir. Oh, nothing bad could happen at all. And then Brandon's like, hold my part 3.
Well, and Dalinar basically blue screen of deaths. He's just, it breaks him. Mm-hmm. Because suddenly he realizes she wasn't she wasn't just killed by assassins or by chance in battle. I killed her. Mm-hmm. I
tossed
order.
in the burning oil and slammed the door and left her to die.
And he starts hearing her screams
amongst all the other children and everybody else in the city. And
but he starts to distinctly hear her voice among them.
Is it him or is it somebody else that makes up that it's an assassin?
It was
Sadius
and Gavilar.
Okay. No, Gavilar's not there. They make sure to keep Gavilar uninformed.
It's General Call, wasn't
right.
it? Or wasn't it? Or was it Kadash? Because
Kadash is puking over on the side.
That's right. But Kadash does know about it. That's part of the
thing.
And so when he talks to Dalinar and Dalinar doesn't realize it, it's just...
Well, and it's probably one of the things that really burns Kadash, because Dalinar seems to live his life without a guilty conscience over this, and Kadash saw it.
Exactly.
Kadash doesn't know
that he's forgotten.
He doesn't remember any of it. It's been taken from him.
I think that's part of the bigger disconnect between them. Is he's just like, how can you live like this when
and then think everything's great and fine, and that
how can you judge people, and how can you do this? Yeah.
When I know what you did, and you know what you did, except Dalinar doesn't remember.
Right.
It's like, yes, we all know what I did.
Yes.
Gosh. It's just so raw. It's so just...
So in this section, we watch Caledon's friends kill each other. We watch Elhokar die. We watch Shallan break. We watch Dalinar break. We watch Dalinar kill his wife. And so this was a real upper, wasn't this section, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, great.
But we see, and we see Hoyd help heal Shallan's son.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think she finally starts to get a grip on dealing with things.
Mm-hmm. That's when she starts to figure out not who she is, but who she doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm. Because it takes time to let go of built-in psyches and ingrained ideas like that.
But he plants those seeds of healing. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on that note, shall we move on to happier business?
Sure.
Guys, it's time for a giveaway.
Oh, I like giving things away. It makes me feel good.
So thanks to our patrons, we are now at a point where we're able to give, and it's, of course, to the Brandon Sanderson store because they are amazing. Mm-hmm. We're able to hold monthly giveaways, and they're open to everyone, and they're free to enter. So, and we let you know during our show and through our social media how to enter those giveaways. Tonight, we are giving away a decal of the Knights Radiant symbol with the 10 swords and the double eye of the Almighty. And this is the kind of thing you can put it in a window, put it on the back of your car, you can put it on your laptop, you can put it on your face, but then it'll be wasted. So don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
But, you can put it anywhere. Let everybody know what an enormous geek you are and that you too are radiant. Mm-hmm. Which is one of the things that Charlotte writes in her web about a pig. Mm-hmm. And don't we all really want to be just like Wilbur?
No.
What order of knight would Wilbur join?
Oh, dear.
You know what? I don't think we have enough time to...
That's our next question. There we go. That's our next question for...
All right.
So, Jordan, give us a number.
Okay.
Random number generator.
Number 1.
Number 1. That would be Atenea Denaxim, one of our Instagram listeners.
Yay!
So we will reach out to you on Instagram and let you know that you are the winner, just in case you aren't listening to this episode right now, because it will be posted a little bit later than usual, and get your contact information so we can get that mailed out. So thanks again to all of our listeners. Special thanks to the Brandon Sanderson online store at store.brandonsanderson.com for getting us these wonderful goodies to give away and share with you. Now, we are, of course, always looking for questions from you to discuss, particularly since we're coming close to the end of our read-through of all of Brandon's books. This is the last book other than part 3 of White Sand, which
never coming
out. It keeps on changing release dates. I have it pre-ordered, and I keep getting emails saying that it's been changed. Hopefully it's coming out next month, I think. But who knows? It may come out someday, though. See. But, once we get through...
We're getting the next Mistborn book before that one.
Once we get through Oathbringer and that one, we will be moving on to broader and more specific topics, oddly enough.
Which will probably still involve Oathbringer.
Of course.
Oh, man.
But that said, we would love to have you send us questions and ideas for things that you would like us to discuss on the show. So email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. Put out your aluminum foil hat theories, what you think might be going on in Brandon's head, your predictions, what's going to happen, or just interesting things that you think, ooh, that'd be a really cool discussion. Go ahead and send those to us, and we may end up reading your email as part of the show. Of course, outside the podcast, we have our own personal projects. Amy, why don't you get us started off? Tell us, where can we find you?
On the internet and Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I was almost so smooth. Okay, so on Facebook, I'm Coincidence Cosplay and Props. On Twitter, I'm at Coincidence Cosp. And Instagram is at Coincidence_Cosplay.
Nice.
So today I actually did my first ever fitting for my first ever commission for He-Man from the 80s. So that was
nice.
Cool. So no pictures of that, sorry. But once it's done, I'm sure he will let me take pictures of his whole cool getup, because he's going to take pictures with Dolph Lundgren,
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah,
Nice.
because he's going to be at FanX, and so he's going to take pictures with him as He-Man. Otherwise, I'm working on fixing up my Queen Eleanor, because it was kind of a rush finishing her, and then working on finishing my casual Anna and making Tremaine look nice and spruced up.
I just realized that's very appropriate. We were talking about Drago earlier, who is also Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I think that sounds familiar. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing.
That was intentional. We were foreshadowing.
Yes.
Yes, totally.
Yes, foreshadowing. Totally. That's exactly what we were doing. Jordan, where can we find your work?
You can find me either on Twitter or Twitch at Splice Stream. That's all one word, Splice Stream. We're coming up on the end of the Professional Amiibo League's first season. If you're interested in joining the second season, come visit us. We might have a list for you to join to figure that out. More importantly, I just got to stream XCOM again. It's been about a year and a half since I got to do that. I love XCOM. XCOM is so gloriously brutal. I'm sorry, Dragon Riding Fox, but you died. And it was not cool. But, we soldiered on.
But that's okay, because I am... What role am I playing again?
You are a swordy fellow.
A swordy fellow?
Yeah, as opposed to the Axolicious bloke.
Okay.
You see, now that is called a callback. That's the literary device I was using there.
Oh, yeah.
I got a callback.
Spirish chap, that's right.
Spirish chaps. What's the role actually in the game?
You are a Templar.
Templar, that's right.
Also known as a swordy fellow.
The swordy fellow. Very cool. All right, and if you are looking for my stuff when I am not here, I've got a bunch of board game reviews over at the Innkeeper's Table at www.innkeeperstable.com. I actually posted a new one today after 10 months.
It's not like anyone liked your tweet that was significant.
Well, I mean, I posted about Trogdor, and Strongbad liked my tweet, like the official account, because yeah, I'm excited about that.
The emails, what?
Anyway, if you are looking for something nostalgic, looking back at a Flash web series from the early 2000s that was based on a children's book written by two college guys in 1996, which, I mean, aren't we all looking for that? Then go check it out.
I'm specifically looking for board games done by those type of people.
Okay, board games work too. Board games based on beefy armed dragons, based on emails that were sent to luchador wearing wannabe villains in said Flash series. That was a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, go over to innkeeperstable.com, read my reviews, tell me what you think, respond to either on a tweet, or you can email me at innkeeperstable@gmail.com, or contact me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those are at innkeeperstable. So, yeah, that was a lot of stuff. For those of you who cannot become patrons just yet, we still would love for you to head over to iTunes, drop us a review. Hopefully you really like us and you'll drop us a 5-star review. But just giving us reviews really helps us out. It helps other people find the podcast and spread the word. So if you could do that, it would be wonderful. Before we go, any other final thoughts on part 3? What was the name of part 3? It was like
It
something
was like
love.
truth
Wailing and sorrow.
Oh goodness, it was like defy love, defy love, truth.
All my feelings hurt.
All the pain.
Ow, it hurts, it hurts.
To the pain. I think that's what
Defying truth, love truth. That's what it was. So, any other
there's so many
final words?
thoughts. It's hard. It was a hard book.
It was,
section.
but again, there's so much wonderful Hoyt stuff,
yes.
and so
It was
I
so
still
good.
really like this section.
Yes,
It's
I wasn't saying
definitely-
it wasn't enjoyable. Just it was hard.
Difficult things can be enjoyable. They can be beautiful. I think that's kind of one of the messages of this entire series. At the same time, though, I can't take many more part 3s before I die. So, Brandon, if we could just limit those, like, you're allowed, like, 2 part 3s per book series.
Okay, I thought you were going to say 2 part 3s per book, and I'm just like, Brandon? No. Jordan?
No.
You can't have 2 part 3s.
No, his
you
books
can have
aren't
part 3 and
zoned for
part
that.
4. But yeah. Like I said, I love Hoyt stuff. And there was some good Hoyt stuff in this. And there's still more to come. So I'm happy about that too. Now, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/innkeeperstable every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Listeners can find our videos on YouTube or the audio versions of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and just about any other place that carries podcasts by doing just a quick search for Cosmere Studies. You can follow us and contact us through Twitter, Instagram, and Faceback under the what is Faceback?
I wasn't going
Facebook.
to say anything, but
It's
now that
ugly
we're
uncle.
here, it sounds like something like JonTron would send us to.
Oh,
What
I
a
was thinking
Faceback.
it sounds like something that you'd see on an Unmade. But
You
anyway,
have to know where the back is.
you can also follow us and contact us through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, those of you who are listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, you're probably not going to see any difference, but for those of you who watch the live recordings, we're recording our next episode on August 19th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which is our normal schedule. It's just going to be recorded 2 weeks ahead of time. We will be moving into part 4 of Oathbringer, so join us in chat here on Twitch. We would love to see you here. In the meantime, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always another secret.